Hello everybody, welcome to the academic writing course. In this course you will be able to learn how to write academic essays for your exams. You will be able to get a higher score and you will be able to increase your writing abilities. In this course, your TOEFL and IELTS exam scores will be higher. That's because in this course there are topics about how to write advantage and disadvantage essays, how to write problem solution essays, and how to write opinion essays. These types of essays are frequently asked in the TOEFL and IELTS exams, so you will have better understanding of them, and it will be easy for you to get higher scores from such exams. Moreover, not only for TOEFL and IELTS exams, but also for your high school and university exams, in the writing part, you will be able to acquainted with such essay types. In this course, there are lessons about common mistakes so that you will be able to avoid making those mistakes. And those mistakes are related to grammar, punctuation, and vocabulary. So the less mistakes you make, the higher score you will get. There is going to be a lesson about conjunctions, so you will have a better understanding about how to connect your ideas. There will be a lesson about critical thinking, so that you will be able to generate new ideas easily for your essays. And there are some lessons related to idioms and phrasal verbs, so that you will be able to decorate your essays with beautiful expressions that will help you get a higher score. So, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the course. Hello everybody. In this video, I am going to show you how to use the critical thinking in order to enrich your essays. In this part of the video especially, we are going to be looking at the who question, and then I'm going to show you how you can insert the who question in your essay, and while answering that, I will be showing you how to use it for three types of essays: the opinion essay, advantages and disadvantages essay, and problem and solution essay. I highly recommend you use this critical thinking so that it will make it easier for you to generate ideas. It will give your essay a structure and it will help you with the brainstorming. Now, for this, I have chosen the topic fast food. And let's look at the first question: who benefits from this? For that, I can choose the opinion essay part, and I can say the fast food companies profit by selling fast food in schools and in many areas. So imagine that you are writing an opinion essay about whether the fast food should be banned in schools or not. So you can write a sentence like that. For the advantages and disadvantages essay, you can say, for the same question, who benefits from this? People who don't have time, or people who don't have enough time, can eat fast food to quickly suppress their hunger. And then you can move on to talk about its advantages or disadvantages. And for the problem and solution essay, you can say, big corporations such as fast food companies benefit from selling fast food to make money. Now let's move on to who is this harmful to part. And for that, for example, let's choose the disadvantages essay. And let's imagine you are writing the second body paragraph where you are talking about the disadvantages. You can say, fast food is harmful for people who have diabetes. And for opinion essay, for example, you can say in your introduction part or in one of your body parts, you can say fast food is harmful for children and teenagers. And let's imagine that you are supporting the idea that fast food should be banned in schools. And let's go to the who makes decisions about this. I think this will fit best to problem and solution essay. Imagine that you are providing solutions. So you can say the government can create laws about selling fast food in schools to ban it, for example. Let's imagine that it's one of your solutions. And for who is most directly affected part, we can talk about, again, for the problem and solution essay. And let's imagine that you are talking about, you are describing the problem. So you can say, children, teenagers, and young adults are directly affected by the harmful effects of fast food because they consume it more regularly. So let's imagine you are talking about the problem part. So you can say that and you can explain your ideas. And for the next question, let me remind you that not every question may not fit in one of your essays, but the idea here is to show you how you can generate ideas. So who have you also heard discuss this? And I think again it will fit best for the problem and solution essay. So you can say, many health experts warn people about the dangers of consuming too much fast food. It also answers the question who will be the key people in this, and also who deserves recognition for this. And let's go back to the opinion essay part. For example, let's imagine that you are writing your conclusion, so you can say, it is well known that health experts don't support eating or consuming too much fast food. And then you can make a connection with your idea that it should be banned in schools, for example. And let's go back to advantages and disadvantages part. And let's talk about this question. Who will be the key people in this? Or who would be the best person to consult? So let's imagine you are writing your conclusion part where you also give some kind of suggestion. So you can say, as far as I'm concerned, it is better if people didn't eat too much fast food. However, they can consult to a health expert to see the acceptable amount. So as you can see, some questions fit best to some kind of essays, and some questions go all three of them. But the general idea here, when you train your brain to think like this, it will be easier for you to generate ideas and for the brainstorming. Now in our next video, I'm going to show you how to do the what question. Welcome back everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to use the what question from the critical thinking for different types of essays. Again, our topic is the fast food. Let's look at the first question. What are the strengths and weaknesses? I think this would fit best for the advantages and disadvantages essay. So I can say, while fast food provides a quick solution for hunger, it also harms your health. Let's look at the second question. What is another perspective, or what is another alternative? So I think this would go well with the problem and solution essay, where you are offering some solutions. So I can say, instead of fast food, people can be taught how to prepare quick but healthy food. In other words, I'm giving some solution. So instead of fast food, there are many recipes that show you how to prepare quick yet healthy food. So this can be taught to people. And let's look at this question. What is the best and worst case scenario? This can go with the opinion essay. Imagine that we are disagreeing with the idea, or we are agreeing with the idea that fast food should be banned in schools, and we are disagreeing that it should be sold in schools. So I can say, if a person consumes fast food for a long period of time, they are likely to suffer a heart attack. So this will be one of the worst case scenarios, where a person loses their health because of eating too much fast food. And let's look at this question. What can we do to make a positive change? I think this can go well with the problem solution essay, because we are offering some solutions. So I can say, people, especially children and teenagers, can be shown the dangers of consuming too much fast food through seminars. Alternatively, you can say health experts can give conferences and seminars to people in order to raise awareness. And let's look at who is most and least important. For this question, I'm going to choose the most important. Let's imagine that we are writing an opinion essay and we are inserting this idea in here. So we can say, the youth is the future of a country, and therefore it is important that they have a healthy body. So in this part, I am choosing the youth as the most important part, and I'm saying we should ban fast food in schools so that young people can have healthier bodies. And let's look at lastly what is the another perspective, or what is another alternative. So let's go back to advantages and disadvantages part. So we can say, school lunch periods can be made longer. And this is the last part of our advantage and disadvantage essay, where we are giving our opinions a little bit. So I say school lunch periods can be made longer, and this way people will have time to eat slowly, and also they will have time to prepare or enjoy their meals. This can also be used in the opinion essay part, but mostly imagine that I am saying if we ban fast food in schools, it will be much better. Or let's imagine that I am saying the disadvantages outweigh the advantages of fast food. And in the last part, I am kind of giving my opinion, so I can use this sentence. So in this part, we have looked at how to use the what part for our fast food theme. And in the next video, we are going to be looking at the when part. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to use the when question for your critical thinking for different types of essays. So let's look at the first question. When is this acceptable or unacceptable? And this question can go well with the advantages and disadvantages essay. So I can say, for example, you can eat fast food when you are having a busy day, but you should avoid eating it every day. What I'm trying to tell here is that it is acceptable when you are having a busy day. There is no harm eating it occasionally, but it would be unacceptable to eat it every day. Let's look at the third question, for example. When would this cause a problem? This can go well with the problem and solution essay, where we are describing the problem. So we can say, for example, every day, the number of people who is suffering from health issues is increasing, and there is a strong connection with fast food and health problems. So what I'm trying to tell here is that it is causing a problem because the number of people who is struggling with a disease related to the consumption of fast food is increasing. So it has started to cause a problem. And for that, let's look at when is the best time to take action. It can go well with problem solution essay. I can say the best time to take an action is now, because the earlier we act on it, the better it will be. And let's go back to this question, when should we ask for help with this? And let's go back to opinion essay part. And let's imagine that we are supporting or agreeing with the idea that fast food should be banned in schools. So I say, we can consult to health experts and we can pick their brains. And then we can move on to say that it should be banned in schools, because it's a well-known fact that many health experts support the idea that fast food should be banned in schools. And let's look at this part. When will we know we have succeeded? It can go to any of these. Let's write it in the opinion essay part because we need to support our ideas and we need to justify our examples and ideas. So I can say, if the number of people, especially students, who are suffering from health issues caused by the high consumption of fast food decreases, then we will know that we have succeeded. So it is possible to answer or generate ideas using this when part as well. There are many options. It depends on your theme, your topic. Let me remind you that not every question can be answered, but it helps you with the brainstorming. So in this part of the video, we looked at the when part. In our next video, we are going to be looking at the why part. Hello everybody. In this part of the video, we are going to be looking at the why question from our critical thinking. So let's look at the first question. Why is this a problem or a challenge? It goes well with the problem and solution essay. So we can say the high consumption of fast food is a problem as it affects your health in a negative way. This can also be used in the opinion essay part, the why is this a problem part. So we can say, let's imagine again, we are supporting the idea that it should be banned in schools. So we can say, many students aren't aware of the dangers of consuming too much fast food. So it's a problem. Why is this a problem? Because many students, they aren't aware of its dangers. So it should be banned in schools. Let's look at this part. Why is this the best or worst case scenario? And it can go well with the opinion part. Let's imagine that we say it should be banned in schools. So we say it will be better if fast food is banned in schools, as it will encourage students to consume healthier food. You can further explain this by saying if students don't find or cannot find fast food in schools, they will be led to eating healthier alternatives. Let's look at this question. Why are people influenced by this? And it can go well with the problem and solution essay part where you are describing the cause of the problem. So you can say advertisement and social media promote the idea that fast food is good. I mean, the advertisement makes it look delicious, or social media gives this impression that it's okay to eat fast food even every day. And let's look at this part. Why should people know about this? And it can go well with the problem and solution essay part again. So people should be made aware of the dangers of consuming too much fast food, as it directly affects their health. So let's look at the why part. Why are people influenced by this? We said social media and advertisements. Now let's look at the why has it been this way for so long, and it can go well with the advantages and disadvantages part. We can say, for example, the consumption of fast food has been going on for a long time as it saves time in this busy era. In other words, it's an introduction part and you are kinda talking about the advantages. So you are saying it saves time, the fast food, so people allow it, and it has become the part of the society because it saves time. This also answers the question, why have we allowed this to happen? So yeah, when you are talking about the advantages part. Now in this part of the video we talked about the why part, and in our next video we are going to be talking about the where part. Welcome back everybody. In this part of the video I'm going to show you how you can use the where question from the critical thinking for your essays. Let's look at the first question. Where would we see this in the real world? And this question is really flexible. It can go to opinion essay or the problem solution essay. We can say, for example, in schools, we see that the number of sales in fast food is increasing. Or you can mention this in your problem and solution essay. Let's paraphrase a little. There is a worrying increase in the fast food sales in educational institutions or educational places such as schools. Now let's look at the where is there the most need for this. So where do we need fast food? And although it's not a very advantageous situation, it's possible to talk about in the advantages part. So you can say, for example, if you don't have access to healthy food, you may need fast food. And as an extension to this question, you can actually say, where would we see this in the real world? In here as well. In busy cities, you can easily find a fast food restaurant or a fast food place. And then you can talk about the advantages of that, but also not forgetting the disadvantages. Let's look at this question, where in the world would this be a problem? It can go to opinion essay or the problem solution. But for opinion, we can say it becomes a problem in schools where children prefer fast food over healthy food. And for this, where can we get more information? It can go to problem and solution part, where you are talking about the possible solutions. You can say, for example, it is possible to get correct information from health experts such as doctors or dietitians. And where are the areas for improvement? Again, this can go to your solution part. So you can say Healthy alternatives can be promoted. Such as salad bars. So it is one area that we can improve in the school canteens, for example. We can improve this situation, the overconsumption of fast food, by offering salad bars, for example. So again, let me remind you one more time, these questions are really flexible. It's up to you how or where you can use it. But for this part, we looked at the where question. In our next video, we are going to be looking at the how part. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, lastly, we are going to be looking at how to use the how question for our essays. Let's look at the first question, is how does this disrupt things? And it can go well with the problem and solution essay. We can say fast food becomes a problem when it is overconsumed. So how does this disrupt things? When it is overconsumed, it affects the health. And how do we know the truth about this? It can go to opinion essay part. We can say, for example, let's imagine we are writing the conclusion part. Fast food should be banned in schools. As we already know, thanks to health experts, that it is very harmful for our health. And let's look at this question. How will we approach this safely? It can go to your solution part where you are offering solutions. We can handle this problem safely by getting help from health experts. And let's look at this question. How does this benefit us or others? Or how does this harm us or others? This can go well with the advantages and disadvantages part. We can say fast food can be eaten when you are very hungry, but you are not in a situation where you can't have healthy food. So it might be an advantage, but how does this harm us or others? So the disadvantage would be if you eat fast food too much, it will adversely, in other words, negatively, affect your health. And let's look at this question. How can we change this for our good? It can be used in the solution part. For example, we can say, we can change this situation, and the situation is that fast food is being consumed in big amounts, and we can change this situation by raising awareness. So let's look at this question. How do we see this in the future? It can go to your opinion part, and we can say, if we ban fast food in schools, we will help the next generation to be healthy. So lastly, in this part of the video, we looked at how we can use the how question. And overall, this critical thinking will help you generate ideas for different types of essays. I would like to remind you one and the last time that these questions are really flexible. Not every single one of them can be used each time, but they come in handy when you want to generate ideas. Today we are going to be looking at how to write an opinion essay, and in this video we are going to be primarily focusing on how to write the introduction part. Now, for this opinion essay, I have chosen the topic students should work after school. Do you agree or disagree? For this essay, I am going to agree with this statement. And for this, I have brainstormed and come up with these ideas, learning about money management and developing social skills. When you write your introduction part, you need to start with a general sentence so that you will have some flexibility to add some ideas and make some necessary changes if needed. For that, I'm starting like this by describing the situation. Working after school has become a popular practice among many students. While some students prefer working after school so as to make ends meet, others do it in order to develop their social skills. As you can see in the introduction part, I described the situation. Now I'm going to narrow it down, and I will say some students might prefer working at a small business, while others may choose to work in big corporations. Because I'm going to agree with this statement, it doesn't matter whether it's a small business or a big corporation. So I'm going to say, regardless of the workplace, in my opinion, students should work after school to learn about money management and to develop their social skills. The most important thing you need to remember is that when you write an opinion essay, your last sentence of the introduction part should clearly reflect your opinion. In other words, you need to express your opinion as clearly as possible. Now, this was the introduction part. We described the situation, and then we clearly expressed our opinions. In our next video, we are going to see how to write the first body paragraph. Welcome back, everybody. In our previous video, we looked at how to write the introduction part. Now we are going to be focusing on how to write the first body paragraph. In my first body paragraph, I am going to use the first idea, learning about money management. I always start my first body paragraph like this. First of all, students who work after school have a chance to learn about money management. Some workplaces pay weekly or monthly. This way, students working after school will have a general idea about how to manage their money. As you can see in the first body paragraph, I started by describing the situation, and then I give an example, which is the workplaces paying weekly or monthly. And then I talked about how it affects the students, what positive outcome it will bring. For this example, as an extension, I am going to talk about something similar. To make this transition, I say, moreover, such students, and I mean the students who work after school, such students will appreciate the value of money when they see how hard it can be to earn it. Again, as another technique, I described a situation. I talked about something that is well known, and now I'm going to give an example. And I say, this way, they will also learn not to waste their money by purchasing unnecessary items. As a result, students who earn their own money will develop an understanding of ownership, and they will take care of their belongings in a better way. What I did here is that I talked about the extension effects of the idea that I am supporting. Basically, I am saying when the students earn their own money, they will appreciate it, so that in the long run or in the long term, they won't waste their money because they know the value of their money. So as a result, the part where I talked about the result is that in the long run, they will appreciate their own belongings, and they will take care of their belongings in a much better way. Now, in the first body paragraph, you need to support your first argument, as I did here. And one way to do it is to describe the situation and give an example, and then talking about how this example will have an effect, a positive effect, in the long run. And this is how you write your first body paragraph. In our next video, we are going to be looking at the second body paragraph. Welcome back, everybody. In this part, we are going to be focusing on how to write the second body paragraph. Similar to the first body paragraph, I'm going to take this idea, developing social skills, and I'm going to explain this idea. I will give examples and support my argument. To make the transition from the first paragraph to the second paragraph, you should always use second of all. Alternatively, you can say secondly. Second of all, students who work after school develop their social skills in a better way than those who don't. What I mean is, when I say those, I mean the students, and when I say who don't, I mean students who don't work after school. Now I'm going to support my arguments with examples and details. In a workplace, especially in retail, workers encounter with many different types of customers. Some are nice and polite, while others are rude and demanding. Students who work after school can easily learn how to deal with different types of customers, and in this way they can also learn how to develop their social skills. What I suggest you to do is, again, describe a situation and then give an example and then talk about how this is going to positively affect in the long run. So, for example, in this part, my argument is that if a student works after school, they can learn how to manage different types of personalities, customers, and in the long run, it will help them develop their social skills. Now, I'm going to give a sub-category or a sub-example. So I will say, furthermore, in a workplace, co-workers do some activities together, such as weekend picnics and competitions, which will, in the long run, help students to improve their social skills. One tip I can give in this part is that you shouldn't repeat yourself, or you shouldn't repeat your vocabulary. So previously I say develop their social skills. Now I am saying improve their social skills. And when I say a co-worker, I can also say, when I'm going to mention it again, I can say colleague. When you vary your vocabulary, it's going to be easier for you to get a higher score on your vocabulary part. So my suggestion is that try to avoid repeating your vocabulary as much as possible. Now let's recap. In the second body paragraph, I start with second of all, and then I describe a situation, a well-known general situation. Then I give an example, and then I talked about how this is going to positively affect and how the result will be positive for the students. And now in our next video, we are going to be looking at how to write a conclusion part. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we have looked at how to write the introduction part first and the second body parts, now let's look at how to write the conclusion part. The most important thing you need to remember is that you need to kind of paraphrase your ideas and what you have talked about above, and then you shouldn't introduce any new ideas. In your conclusion part, do not add any new ideas or do not add any new argument. You need to kind of repeat yourself, but you need to do it in a paraphrasing way. So I always start my conclusion part by saying, to conclude, working after school will bring many benefits for students. It will help them learn how to manage different kind of people. Also, it will contribute to their social development. As you can see, I didn't say anything new. I'm just saying what I have said above in different wordings. So I say, that's why students should take the opportunity to work after school if they can. This way, they will be more confident in terms of money management and more skillful in their human relations. As you can see, I tried to paraphrase a little bit. Instead of saying developing social skills, I said skillful in their human relations. And I say learning about money management. Instead of saying that, I say they feel confident in terms of money management. Now let's recap. In your conclusion part, you need to repeat your ideas by paraphrasing, and the last sentence of your conclusion should also reflect your ideas. And as you see in my conclusion part, one can clearly understand that I am supporting the idea that students should work after school. Now this is how you write your opinion essay. You need one introduction describing the situation, 2 body paragraphs. Sometimes you may need a third body paragraph, but usually it is 2 body paragraphs. Each body paragraph should talk about one general idea, and then this idea should be supported by examples, and then the conclusion part should cover all of the ideas in a new way without repeating yourself. And this is how you write your opinion essay. Hello everybody. In this video I am going to show you some alternative sentences by paraphrasing of the opinion essay that I wrote in the previous video. So let's start with the first one. While some students prefer working after school so as to make ends meet, others do it in order to develop their social skills. I'm going to change some of the wording and the conjunction. So I say, some students would rather work after school. On the other hand, others do it to improve their social skills. Notice that I used prefer and ing in here, and I changed it by using would rather and the bare form of the verb. And instead of saying while, I say it on the other hand. And instead of saying develop, I say improve. Let's look at the second example. Some students might prefer working at a small business, while others may choose to work in big corporations. So I'm going to paraphrase in a similar fashion with the first sentence. So I say, some students would rather work at a small establishment. On the other hand, others might prefer working at huge businesses. So as you can see, it is possible to paraphrase by changing some of the wording and the conjunction. Let's look at the third one. Regardless of the workplace, in my opinion, students should work after school to learn about money management and to develop their social skills. So I'm going to change it by saying, if you ask me, students ought to work after school in order to have a knowledge regarding money management, as well as improving their social skills. What I'm trying to tell here is that it's going to be beneficial for students to work after school because they will learn how to control their money. So instead of money management, you can say how to control their money. And for social skills, you can say interpersonal relationships. These are some of the possibilities. Let's look at the next one. First of all, students who work after school have a chance to learn about money management. So I'm going to change it by saying, firstly, students working after school have a higher chance to learn how to control their money. I applied what I mentioned in the previous sentence. I changed some of the wording. And the next one is, students who work after school develop their social skills in a better way than those who don't. So I'm going to say it. Students who don't work after school may not be able to improve their social skills as much as those who do. So as you can see, I played around with the subject. In the first sentence, what I am emphasizing is that students who work after school, and in here I emphasized students who don't work after school. And the next one, in a workplace, co-workers do some activities together, such as weekend picnics and competitions, which will in the long run help students to improve their social skills. So I'm going to change it by saying, in an establishment, colleagues might engage in social activities like weekend picnics, so instead of saying colleague, you can say co-workers or people working together, and competitions. This will, in the long term, instead of saying in the long run, you can say in the long term, will contribute to the development of social skills. So I am changing it as a noun, to the development of social skills for students. This sentence is another example of how possible it is to paraphrase by just changing the wording. As long as you give the same meaning, that should be fine. The next one is, it will help them learn how to manage different kinds of people. Also, it will contribute to their social development. So I'm going to say it. This will help them to know how to control their finances, or in this part, if you don't want to talk about the money management, we can just say this will help them to know how to deal with people from all walks of life. All walks of life means that there are different people from different backgrounds. In this part, for example, you can say alternatively, people from different backgrounds. And instead of using also, you can say furthermore. It will improve their interpersonal relations. So instead of saying social development, I say interpersonal relations, which in a way corresponds to social development. And the last one, students should take the opportunity to work after school if they can. So I'm going to change it by saying students ought to work after school if they have the chance to do so. And what I mean is, by saying if they have the chance to do so, is that if they have an opportunity to work after school. So in this video, I showed you how to paraphrase by using or changing some of the wording and some of the grammar structures, as well as some of the conjunctions. Hello everybody. In this video, I am going to write a sample opinion essay and our topic is spending your entire life in a single geographical location is better than living in various locations. Do you agree or disagree? So I'm going to start my introduction paragraph by describing the situation. I start by saying people might live in different locations during their life for different reasons, such as work, marriage, and business. On the other hand, some people would rather rooting in a single location. What I mean by saying rooting in is settling down. In other words, they choose a place and they spend their entire lives there. So I'm going to continue to describe the situation. While some people like experiencing different locations, or instead of saying different places, it is better to paraphrase the question a little bit. So I say, while some people like experiencing different places, others may choose to stay in a single area. In my opinion, and then I'm going to give my opinion with my thesis statements. So I say, in my opinion, living in different locations is much better than living in a single one. Just a little tip, instead of just saying living in different locations is better, I say much better, to emphasize it and to make it more decorative. Then I'm going to write my first body paragraph and I'm going to give some reasons and examples. So I start by saying, first of all, living in different locations develop you as a person. Now, I like making a big general statement because it gives me the flexibility to narrow it down. So I say, develop you as a person is a big statement. So I can choose the paths that I'm going to go from there. So I say, if you live in different places, you have a chance to get to know many different kinds of people. You will be able to meet people from different backgrounds. So I'm going to support my first sentence by saying this sentence, and then I'm going to narrow it down and give some examples. So I say, you are going to be able to learn different cultures and different languages too, which in the long term helps you to improve yourself. So as you can see, I showed what I meant by saying develop you as a person, and my angle is learning different cultures and different languages. So I'm going to give an example. My cousin changes where he lives every 3 to 5 years. Last year he was living in India and now he lives in France. I can see clearly that he has a better understanding of people in terms of their culture. He is more open-minded and he absolutely developed his French as well as other languages. So as you can see, what I did here is that I talked about the effects of what I am supporting. I'm supporting that spending your life in different places will help you in terms of understanding people. And I gave an example on my cousin, and I say he has a better understanding of people. So I am talking about the effects. And I'm going to close it by saying, generally, he has expanded his horizon. This goes to show that different locations will definitely give you the chance to develop yourself. And I'm closing my first body paragraph by paraphrasing a little bit my topic sentence, and then I'm going to move on to my second body paragraph, and I'm going to say, secondly, different locations gives you better work opportunities. Again, I start by saying a general statement and then I'm going to narrow it down and give an example. When you live in different locations, you will come across with a lot of different work opportunities. A person you have met might open many doors. For instance, my cousin moved to France as he had a job offer from a person that he met in India. As you can see, I am referring back to my previous statements and I am trying to connect my ideas together to give a coherent essay. So I say, because my cousin lives in different places, he knows different people and it opens some doors in terms of business. I say furthermore, or you can say in addition to, or you can say moreover. I chose furthermore. Living in different locations or places will contribute to your social skills, which is very important for business. The more you understand other cultures, the better relationships you will have with your clients. So what I'm trying to tell you in here is that, again, I'm trying to connect some ideas. So I say, if you live in different areas in the world or in your country, you will develop your social skills, which in return will help you in your business. And I can give another example. So I can say, for instance, my cousin knows about Indian and French culture, and whenever a foreign customer comes, the company asks my cousin to deal with them, as he has a better understanding of their culture or of their cultures than his co-workers. After giving one specific example, I'm going to move on to my conclusion part. So I say, to conclude, living in different places will give you a better working opportunities, as well as a better perspective of life. Now, as you can see in my conclusion part, I am just paraphrasing what I mentioned above. And in this part, I can say 1 or 2 sentences about the other side of the story, which is living in a single location. So I say, if you live in a single location, you won't be able to learn about different cultures. You may not improve your social skills, and your language learning might be slower, or it may not happen, or it may not happen at all. What I'm trying to tell you in here is that I am supporting my idea by saying what happens if my idea doesn't come true. In other words, I am supporting the idea that you should live in different places, and if you stay in a single location, this is what is going to happen to you, which are not very favorable things. You know, learning about other cultures is one thing, but if you stay in one location, you may not be able to do that. You can learn different languages if you live in different locations, but if you stay in one single location, you may not be able to do that, and such. So in the last sentence of my conclusion part, I'm just going to make a suggestion. As far as I'm concerned, everybody ought to experience living in different locations as much as they can. So let's recap. In the introduction part, I described the situation, and I described why some people move around in the world, live in different locations, and why some people might choose to settle in one specific place. In my first body paragraph, I make a statement and I support it by giving some examples, and I did the same in the second body paragraph. And in the conclusion part, I paraphrased my ideas and I talked about what might happen otherwise, and I finished it by giving a suggestion. And this is your sample opinion essay. Hello everybody. In this video, I am going to show you how to write an advantages and disadvantages essay. For this essay, I have chosen the topic working from home, and we are going to be looking at its advantages and disadvantages. For the advantages, I have chosen that it's more comfortable and more hygienic. And for the disadvantages, I have chosen concentration and loneliness. Now, when you write your introduction part, you need to define the problem, and then you need to talk about the factors that lead to that situation. You can start by stating general facts, and then you can narrow it down. For example, I start my introduction by saying, many conditions such as health, the job type, and people's preferences determine where people work. Now, this is a very broad and general sentence. Now I'm going to narrow it down. I say, while some jobs require people to be actually in the office, other jobs can be handled at home. And then I'm going to further narrow it down by giving a specific situation. So I say, especially during the recent pandemic, a lot of people have found themselves having to work from home. After saying all of these things, I'm going to finish my introduction part by saying, when it comes to working from home, there are undeniable benefits as well as drawbacks. My little tip here would be using adjectives when you find the chance. This way your expressions can be more decorative and much more effective. For example, instead of just saying there are benefits, I say there are undeniable benefits. So, in your introduction part, let's recap. You need to define the situation, and you need to start with a broad sentence, and then you need to narrow it down, and you need to finish by saying, when it comes to, and then your topic, there are undeniable benefits as well as drawbacks. Now, in the next video, I am going to show you how to write the first body paragraph. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to write your first body paragraph. I start my body paragraph by saying, as for advantages, the first and the main argument in its favor, and when I say in its favor, I mean working from home, is that working from home is more comfortable. The first sentence of your introduction part is a very general statement. Similar to that, the first sentence of your body paragraph is a general statement, and then I'm going to narrow it down, and then I'm going to give an example. Now, what I mean by comfortable, I'm going to explain that. Since you don't have to leave your home to go to work, you also don't have to deal with related activities. And then I'm going to further narrow it down, and I'm going to give a specific example to support my argument. I say, for instance, instead of struggling with the morning traffic, you can just get your morning coffee sit in front of your computer or your laptop and start working. So I'm giving a very specific example for how comfortable it is to work from home. In your first body paragraph, you need to further develop your statements by giving examples. So I'm continuing by saying another considerable positive aspect of it is that working from home is more hygienic. Now this is my another point. This is my another example, and it's a general statement. Now I'm going to talk about it and give an example for the hygiene part. Since you are either alone or with your family, you don't have to worry about being infected with a disease. Now I'm going to further explain by giving a specific example. For example, you can use your personal belongings at your home instead of shared objects. Which everybody touches in the office. As you can see, the pattern I'm following is that I'm making a general statement, like it's comfortable, and then I'm further explaining the situation, and for that situation I'm giving one specific example. Similarly, I'm making a general statement, and then I am explaining the situation, and for that situation I am giving one specific example to illustrate my point. In the next video, we are going to be looking at the disadvantages part. Welcome back everybody. In this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to write the disadvantages part. Let's remember, for the disadvantages part, we have concentration and loneliness. I start my disadvantages part by saying, on the other hand, working from home has certain disadvantages. Notice that I didn't just say has disadvantages, I say certain disadvantages to make my expressions more effective. I continue by saying one very convincing point against it is that the home environment might ruin your concentration. I'm following the same pattern as in the advantages part. In the disadvantages part, I'm starting with a general statement, so it might ruin your concentration. Now I'm going to explain this. You may not be able to focus on your job during your shift when you are working from home. Now I'm going to further narrow it down and I'm going to explain what I mean by saying you may not be able to focus or the home environment can be a distraction. To give an example, I say, to illustrate You may be distracted by a neighbor who drops by. In other words, what I am trying to say is that one of your neighbors who just decided to visit you might ruin your concentration. So it's a specific example. Now I'm going to add another example, and I will continue by saying a further drawback of it is that you may feel lonely. Again, I made a general statement. Now I'm going to narrow it down and I'm going to support it with a specific example. So I say, when you are working from home, you might find yourself dealing with work-related problems on your own. So what I am trying to say here is that when you are in your office, you have your co-workers, and when there is a problem, they might help you. However, when you are at home working, you are on your own, you are by yourself, and when there is a work-related problem, you have to deal with that alone. To give an example, I say, now I'm going to make it much more clear with a specific example. You may have to deal with a demanding customer without your co-workers' support. So this sentence helps me illustrate my point, and this way I gave a specific example. As you can see, I followed the same pattern. I made a general statement, then I gave an example, and I further explained the situation. And in the next video, I am going to show you how to write the conclusion part. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to write the conclusion part. When you are writing your conclusion part, what you need to do is to paraphrase all the things you have mentioned above. So I start by saying, all things considered, working from home has advantages as well as disadvantages. While working from home may affect your focus. So as you realized, I said concentration above. Now I am kind of paraphrasing it by saying focus. So I'm trying to use different wording. And your emotional state. Again, above I said you may feel lonely. Now I am kind of paraphrasing it by saying your emotional state. And to make it more clear, I say your emotional state negatively. It provides you more practical and sanitary working conditions. As you may have realized, I paraphrased this part again. So above I said it's much more comfortable and much more hygienic. Now I am paraphrasing it by saying it gives you a practical and sanitary working conditions. I suggest you use different words, different wordings to get a higher score on your vocabulary part, and paraphrasing is one way of doing that. Now I'm going to continue my conclusion part. To wrap up, I say, therefore, I believe that its pros outweigh the cons. Now, pros and cons is another way of saying advantages and disadvantages, or the positive and negative sides. So above I say positive sides, negative sides, I say drawbacks. Now I'm saying pros and cons. I'm going to finish my conclusion part by expressing my opinion and give a suggestion. So I say, if you ask me, it is better for people to work from home. Now I'm kind of expressing which side I am more supporting, especially during these turbulent times. Now I'm going to further support my idea, and I'm going to further show which way I am supporting. But then I'm going to continue giving a suggestion. I think there is no harm in working from home as long as you can maintain your self-discipline and keep in touch with your colleagues. So let's recap. When you are writing your conclusion part, you need to paraphrase what you have mentioned above, and then you need to finish by saying a suggestion. And this is how you write your conclusion part. Hello everybody. In this video, I am going to show you some alternative sentences and paraphrasing for the advantages and disadvantages essay. Let's look at the first one. Many conditions such as health, the job type, and people's preferences determine where people work. I can change this by saying some conditions like health, the sort of the job, and people's personal preferences can play a role in determining the place where people labor. Now, labor is another way of saying working, and play a role is another way of saying it has an effect. Alternatively, we can say such conditions like health, the job type, and people's preferences have an effect to choose the workplace. So instead of saying the place where people labor or the place where people work, we can simply say the workplace. Let's look at the second sentence. While some jobs require people to be actually in the office, the other jobs can be handled at home. I can say some jobs demand people to be in the office physically. On the other hand, some jobs can be done at home. Instead of using while, I used on the other hand, and it has the same meaning. Now let's look at the third sentence. Since you don't have to leave your home to go to work, you also don't have to deal with related activities. I start by saying, as it is not necessary for you to leave your home, the related activities don't have to be dealt with. So I change this sentence by using passive voice. And the next one, the home environment might ruin your concentration. Again, I'm going to do passive. Your concentration may be ruined by the home environment. Alternatively, I can say the home environment might have a negative effect on your concentration. And the next one, you may be distracted by a neighbor who drops by. Now, drops by means to visit someone unannounced. And I can say, your focus might be ruined by a neighbor who decided to visit you suddenly. Or instead you can say, who decided to visit you unannounced. And the next one, when you are working from home, you might find yourself dealing with work-related problems on your own. So I say, if you work from home, it is possible that you might have to handle job-related issues alone. So instead of saying on your own, I say alone. Instead of saying work-related problems, I say job-related issues. So as you can see, it is possible to paraphrase by playing with the wording. And the next one, you may have to deal with a demanding customer without your co-workers' support. So I say, you might need to handle a demanding customer without your co-workers' support by your side. Also, you can say colleagues instead of co-workers. That's also possible. And the last one, while working from home may affect your focus and your emotional state negatively, it provides you more practical and sanitary working conditions. So I say, it is possible that working from home can affect your concentration and your emotions negatively. However, it can give you a practical and sanitary work environment. So as you can see, it is possible to paraphrase by changing the wording and by playing with the grammar. And in this video, I tried to show you how to do that. Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to write an advantages and disadvantages essay, and my topic is video games. I'm starting my introduction part by describing the situation, which is play your games. Now I start by saying, Video games have been a hot topic for a long time. As you may remember, we start with our introduction by describing the situation and giving some background information. I say, children prefer playing video games for several reasons. Some play them to merely pass the time, while others play them as they are addicted to them. After I describe the situation, I give my statement. I say, when it comes to playing video games, there are undeniable benefits as well as drawbacks. After I wrote my introduction, I'm moving on to my first body paragraph where I'm going to talk about the advantages. I start by saying, as for advantages, the first and main argument in its favor is that playing video games helps children learn a foreign language. Now I'm going to describe this situation and I'm going to further explain how playing video games can help children learn a foreign language. When children play an international game, they have a chance to speak with foreign people, which develops their speaking skills. And then I'm going to give a specific example. So I say, for instance, if they are playing with a French person, they can practice their French and it can help them improve their accent too. So after I gave my specific example, I continue to talk about another advantage, and I continue by saying another considerable positive aspect of it is that playing video games helps children develop their reflexes. And then I'm going to give an example or further explain the situation to support my argument. And I say, when playing a video game, players usually have to act very quickly. And then I'm going to give an example of acting quickly. So I say, for example, if a monster appears in the game, and to make it more decorative, I can say in here, if a monster appears suddenly in the game, the players have to shoot it immediately. Now, after I talked about the advantages, I'm going to move on to the disadvantages, and I say, on the other hand, playing video games has certain disadvantages. One very convincing point against is that children who play them constantly and by constantly I mean all the time, are usually less successful academically. Now I'm going to further explain this situation. If children play a lot of video games, this will affect their academic achievements, and then I'm going to say how is this going to affect their academic achievements. So it's going to affect it negatively. And then I'm going to further discuss this situation. To illustrate, children who spend a lot of time playing video games get lower scores from their exams. And then I'm going to add another disadvantage, and I will say a further drawback of it is that video games cause children to be more violent. And then I'm going to explain the situation. There are plenty of fighting and killing in video games, or you can say there are plenty of fighting and killing going on in video games, or you can say a lot of fighting and killing exist in video games. And then I'm going to give an example. So I say, to give an example, they have to kill or beat someone in a video game so as to win the game. So now I'm talking about those video games where the main purpose or the main aim is to kill someone to win the game. And I'm going to talk about its effects. So I say, this may lead children to act aggressively. Now I'm going to write my conclusion part. As you may remember, in the conclusion part, we are just paraphrasing what we have talked about. I say, all things considered, playing video games has advantages as well as disadvantages. While video games can help children learn new skills, it can cause them to be unsuccessful academically and to be more prone to violence. And then I'm going to give my opinion. Therefore, I believe that its cons outweigh the pros. Now, as you may remember, it's another way of saying it has more disadvantages than advantages. And then, as I am writing my last sentence for this essay, I'm going to give a suggestion. I say, if you ask me, children may play video games, but under parental supervision. In other words, their parents have to be there with them while they are playing games, and for a limited amount of time. Now, in this video, I wrote an essay about advantages and disadvantages of video games. And as you may remember from the previous videos, in the introduction part, I provided some background and explained the situation. In the advantages part, I talked about its advantages and I also mentioned its effects. And in the disadvantages part, the same. I talked about two disadvantages, gave some specific examples, and talked about its long-term or short-term effects. And in the conclusion part, I paraphrased all the things I have mentioned above. Hello everybody. In this video, I am going to show you how to write a problem and solution essay. For this essay, I have chosen the problem, the number of obese people is increasing, and I came up with two solutions. Solution number one is educating people about obesity, and solution number two is the government initiative. Now, when you write your introduction paragraph, you need to talk about where the problem comes from and who the problem affects, how does it affect in the long term or in the short term. So I'm starting my first sentence by talking about the roots of the problem, and I say, the number of obese people is increasing every day. Now I'm going to reword this sentence. More and more people are becoming obese each year. Now I'm going to start talking about where this problem comes from. The modern life prevents people from eating healthy food, and also the increasing prices of quality food is an obstacle for people to get necessary nourishment. After saying this, I'm going to talk about the effects. As a result, obesity becomes prevalent all over the world. It's a well-known fact that obese people are likely to have heart attacks and even strokes. Now this is the part where I talked about the result of the problem. So the result is if a person is obese, they can have a heart attack and they can have a stroke. Now, as I'm finishing my first introduction part, I'm going to surface level talk about the solutions. Two possible solutions can be applied to deal with this problem. Which are educating people about obesity and the government initiative. Now let's recap. In our introduction part, we need to talk about what the problem is, who does it affect, and how does it affect. And then we need to talk about the results. And then as we are finishing our first paragraph, we need to talk about what can be done on a surface level. In the next video, I am going to write the first paragraph, which is the first solution, educating people about obesity. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to write the first body paragraph of your problem and solution essay. Our first solution is educating people about obesity. You need to start your first body paragraph by saying, first of all, or you can say firstly, educating people about the dangers of obesity will help us tackle with this problem. Now, after saying that, I'm going to talk about the importance of education and then make a connection. So I say, education has the power to change people's minds, and it can have a long-lasting effect on people's health. Now I'm going to narrow it down, and I'm going to talk about how we can educate people starting from early ages. So I say, starting from the primary school, children can be informed about unhealthy food, through games and activities. Moreover, in such lessons like physical education, children can be encouraged to take part in sports, and they can be informed about the importance of staying away from a sedentary lifestyle. As you can see in my first body paragraph, I try to stick with the theme of education and I narrow it down. My primary focus was children and students, but it is also possible to talk about adults. So if you want to talk about adults, for example, we can say seminars and conferences can be arranged for adults. But in this first body paragraph, I have chosen to go with the student perspective and the children perspective and how we can educate them. In our next video, I am going to show you how to write the second body paragraph, which is about government initiative. Welcome back, everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to write the second body paragraph. And for our second solution, I have chosen the government initiative. Now you need to start your second body paragraph by saying, second of all, or you can say secondly, the government can help decrease the number of obese people. Now I'm going to talk about how the government can do that. The government can increase the number of parks and sport centers. And now I'm going to say how this can have a positive effect. So I say this way, people will have a higher chance to find places to do sport, which in the long term will decrease the number of people who are obese. Because as you know, there is a strong connection between doing sports and preventing obesity. So I say in the long term will decrease the number of people who are obese. Now I'm going to say one more sentence about this, and then I'm going to talk about a second example. And I say, if the government will offer such services for free or for a reduced price, people will be more likely to do sports. As my second example, I'm going to make a transition by saying, furthermore, the government can introduce some laws regarding food, and then I'm going to give an example. So I say, for instance, the government can ban the sugary foods in schools. And then I'm going to talk about how this can have a positive effect. This way, children will eat sugary food or processed food less. As you can see, what I did is I make a preposition. So I say the government can create sports centers and parks. And then I talk about how this can help people. So I say so that people can have more spaces, more areas to do sport. And then I talk about how this can have an effect. So I say the number of obese people will decrease. Similarly, I make a statement or I make a suggestion. So I say the government can introduce some laws. Then I narrow it down to a specific example for the law. So I say, for example, the government can ban the sugary foods, and then I talk about how this can have an effect. So children will eat less sugary or high processed food. So what I did is I make a preposition, I make a suggestion, and then I give a specific example for that suggestion, and then I talk about the positive impact of that suggestion. Now in our next video, I'm going to show you how to write the conclusion part. Welcome back everybody. In this part of the video, I am going to show you how to write the conclusion part. When you are writing your conclusion part, you shouldn't offer any new solutions or any new ideas. You just need to paraphrase what you have mentioned above. So I'm starting my conclusion by saying, to conclude, obesity poses a threat to the society and to people's health. Now I'm going to paraphrase the negative effects of obesity. Due to obesity, people suffer from many diseases and their quality of life decreases. And now I'm going to paraphrase my solutions. However, by educating children about the dangers of obesity and implementing physical activities in the lessons, as well as assistance from the government, it is possible to overcome this problem. As you can see in my conclusion part, I didn't mention any new ideas or I didn't offer any new solutions. I just paraphrased what I have talked about above. And this is how you write your conclusion part. Hello everybody. In this video, we are going to be looking at how to paraphrase sentences, and I'm going to show you some alternative sentences for the problem and solution essay. Now, these sentences, they come from the problem and solution essay. Let's look at the first one. The number of obese people is increasing every day. I can change that to the number of obese people is on the rise. If something is on the rise, it's another way of saying it is increasing. Now the second sentence. First of all, educating people about the dangers of obesity will help us tackle with this problem. I can make this passive. I can say this problem can be solved, or you can say can be handled if we educate the people about the dangers of obesity. Alternatively, you can make this part passive. So you can say this problem can be solved if people are given enough information, or if people are educated about the hazards of obesity. So as you can see, you can change the grammar by making it passive. You can play with the words. There are multiple options. Now let's look at this sentence. Children can be informed about unhealthy food through games and activities. I'm going to change the subject. I'm going to say games and activities can come in handy. It's another way of saying they can be useful, come in handy, to inform children about unhealthy food. Yeah. And the next sentence, the government can help decrease the number of obese people. I can make a conditional sentence. The number of obese people can be lowered. So instead of decrease, I say lowered with the help of the government. The next one, the government can increase the number of parks and sports centers. Again, I can change this by making it passive. So I say the number of parks and sports centers can be increased by the government. Let's look at this one. If the government will offer such services for free or for a reduced price, people will be more likely to do sports. So I can change the sentence by saying people will have a higher chance to engage in doing sportive activities, provided that, it's another way of saying if, provided that, and then the rest will be passive. Such services are offered for free of charge. It's another way of saying for free of charge, or for free. And the next sentence, the government can ban the sugary foods in schools. I can make this passive. I can say sugary foods can be banned in schools by the government. Alternatively, I can say the government can prevent sugary foods from being sold in schools. And the last one, due to obesity, people suffer from many diseases and their quality of life decreases. So I can change the subject and I can say obesity causes people to suffer from many illnesses, and it also causes a decrease in the quality of life. So as you can see, there are many ways to paraphrase. One of them is changing the wording. Another way is changing the grammar. In this video, I tried to show you and give you some examples to show you how to paraphrase. Hello everybody. In this video, we are going to be looking at 20 common mistakes, and in this particular video, we are going to be looking at the first 5 of them. Some of those mistakes will be about grammar, some of them will be about vocabulary, and some of them will be related to punctuation. Now let's look at the first example. And the first example is a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence is that there are 2 independent clauses, but there isn't any proper punctuation or conjunction. For example, my aunt works from home. She doesn't have to deal with the traffic. Imagine that you are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay and your topic is working from home. So although your example is a nice one, the actual sentence would be wrong. The correct version would be, my aunt works from home, comma, and she doesn't have to deal with the traffic. Now let's look at the second example. It's about subject-verb agreement. Basically, if the noun is singular, the pronoun must be singular too. Or if the noun is plural, the pronoun must be plural too. Let's look at the example. The number of people who work from home are increasing. Now, it is possible or natural to think that we should be using are in here because of the verb people. However, the real subject is the number of people who work from home, and our actual subject is the number, which is singular. That's why we should say the number of people who work from home is increasing. Let's look at the third example. This example is going to be about mistaken apostrophe use. For example, my father's work requires his immediate attention. If I put an apostrophe in here, that would be wrong because this already expresses possession. The correct version would be, my father's work requires his immediate attention. When you are using his, her, your, their, you don't need an extra apostrophe. It already expresses possession. Now the fourth example is related to sentence fragment. Basically, there is a related idea, but this idea is written as a separate sentence, which is a mistake. For example, my mother worked from home because she was sick. Now, a sentence needs a subject and a verb, and they cannot be separated. So the correct version would be, my mother worked from home because she was sick. And the last example is about missing comma in a compound sentence. Now let's look at this example. My father runs the family company and my mother helps him. The comma is missing here, and the correct version would be, my father runs the family company, comma, and my mother helps him. So in this video, we looked at 5 of the most commonly made mistakes. And in the next video, we are going to continue looking at other types of mistakes. Welcome back, everybody. In the previous video, we looked at the first 5 common mistakes. Now we are continuing with the mistakes that are between 6 and 10. So the first mistake is a vocabulary one, and it's the difference between affect and effect. Let's look at this sentence. Working from home can affect your motivation. Now the problem is that this word, and the correct version is working from home, can affect your motivation. The problem is that when you spell it like that with E, it's the noun. It's not a verb, it's the noun. So it can't come after the modal verb. Now when you are spelling it with A, it's the correct version, it's the verb. So it can come after a modal verb and it has a meaning. It means that it has an impact on your motivation. Now don't forget, one is a noun, the other one is a verb. Alright, the next one. It's the incomplete comparison. When you are making a comparison, you have to express what is it that you are comparing with. For example, working from home is easier. Now that will be wrong because I'm not stating what I am comparing it with. Okay, working from home is easier, but easier than what? Now the correct version would be, working from home is easier than working from an office. Or you can say working from home is easier than it was 10 years ago. So basically, if there is a comparative version, easier, then you should state what you are comparing it with. Otherwise, it will be wrong. Now, the next mistake is a tense mistake. Present perfect tense and simple past tense are usually confused. Let's look at this sentence. If I say I have worked from home last year, that will be wrong because the last year is not continuing, it's in the past. It is finished, it's completed. So it doesn't continue anymore, and its effect isn't poured into the present now. So I should say, I worked from home last year. Simple past tense. Alright, the next one is a relative clause related. Let's look at this sentence. People which work from home can work fast. Now the problem is that when you are using relative clause, you need to be careful because people should be followed with who, and we should use which when we are talking about objects. And the correct version would be people who work from home can work fast. And the last one is about expressing feelings or expressing the adjective, and it's one of the common mistakes. Let's look at this example. Working from home can be bored. Now this would be wrong because bored is an expression of feeling. You feel bored or you get bored, but something can be boring. So the correct version would be working from home can be boring. Now, another way of looking at this is that when I worked from home, I felt boring. That will be wrong because then it's like I'm saying I am a boring person or I was a boring person, which would be the wrong meaning. The correct version of this would be when I worked from home, I felt bored. So be careful when you are using ing and when you are using ed. If you are talking about feelings, it should be ed. Another example would be working from home can be exciting, but it would be wrong if I say working from home can be excited. That would be wrong. So in this video, we looked at the other 5 of the commonly made mistakes, and in the next video, we are going to look at the other 5. Welcome back, everybody. We are continuing with the other 5 of the most commonly made mistakes, and we are going to be looking at mistakes from 11 to 15. And our first mistake is about using infinitive after a modal verb. Let's look at this example. People must to finish their work. Now the problem is that after a modal verb, and it can be can, should, have to, has to, these kind of modal verbs, we cannot use infinitive. We have to use the bare form. So the correct version would be people must finish their work. And it can seem like a simple mistake, but as you are racing with the time, it is easier to make this mistake. Another example would be people should go to work. If I add an infinitive in here, that would be wrong. And the correct version, you guessed it, is that people should go to work. Now the next mistake is related to the subjects, and it has to do with the singular subjects. And these can be everything, anything, nothing, anybody. Basically, the subjects that start with every, any, and nothing. So let's look at this example. Everybody have to work. Now this would be wrong because everybody is singular. So the correct version would be everybody has to work. Similarly, let's look at this example. Nobody have to deal with the heavy workload. Now this would be wrong because again nobody is a singular subject, so nobody has to deal with the heavy workload. So if something starts with every, any, no, these are singular ones, be careful about that. And the next one is related to wrong question sentence. When you are using double H words in the middle of the sentence, the rest of the sentence shouldn't be formed like a question sentence. It should be like a normal affirmative sentence. For example, let's look at this example. People who work from home can choose when can they work. Now this would be wrong because in here can is in the wrong position. The correct version would be people who work from home can choose when they can work. Notice the difference between these two parts. Now this is like a real question sentence, but it's wrong because the double H word is in the middle of the sentence. When this is the case, it should continue like an affirmative sentence because we are not actually asking a question. And now another mistake is between for and since. Now, as you may know, we use for when we are talking about duration, for months, for years, for days, for weeks. And we use since when we are pointing out when something started. So let's look at this example. Many people have worked from home for last year. Now this would be wrong because I am highlighting when it started. I'm not talking about the duration, I'm pointing out the starting point. So the correct version would be many people have worked from home since last year. Now, also we can look at it like this way. Many people have worked from home since 2 years. Now this would be wrong because I'm talking about duration. So the correct version would be many people have worked from home for 2 years. So be careful when you are using for and when you are using since. The last example is related to the word enough. As you know, when you are using enough, it should come after the adjective. Now let's look at this example. Working from home can be efficient if your home is enough big. Now this is problematic because enough should come after the adjective. It shouldn't come before the adjective. So the correct usage would be working from home can be efficient if your home is big enough. So enough should always follow the adjective, not the other way around. So in this video, we looked at the other 5 of the commonly made mistakes. And in the next video, we are going to be looking at the last 5 group of the commonly made mistakes. Welcome back, everybody. In the last part of the video, we are going to be looking at the last 5 commonly made mistakes. And the first one is related to need to or need. Now, when you say need to, you need to use a verb, but when you use need without to, you need just a noun. So let's look at this example. People who work from home need to healthy food. But the problem is that healthy food, it's not a verb, but after need to, we should use a verb. So the correct version would be people who work from home need to eat healthy food. Now, another perspective of looking at this is that people who work from home need eat healthy food. This would be wrong as well because you cannot use 2 verbs and one of them has to be a noun, so you should use infinitive. And the correct version, it's the same like this. We need to in here. So people who work from home need to eat healthy food. Just don't forget that you cannot use 2 verbs like that, side to side, without gerund or infinitive. So the next mistake is the difference between for and to. It's similar to the previous example, but let's look at the example. People use online tools for run their business. Now this would be wrong because I'm talking about the purpose of something. So what is the purpose of people using online tools? It is to run their business. So if there is a purpose of an action, we need to use to. And I say people use online tools to run their business. So after for, you can use a noun, but you shouldn't use a verb like that. And the next mistake is the confusion of the adverbs. Let's look at this example. People who work from home can work efficient. Now, efficient is an adjective. However, there is a verb in the sentence, so we need an adverb. And adverbs describe how an action is done. So the correct version would be people who work from home can work efficiently, like that. The next mistake is about will. Now you cannot use will twice in the same sentence. So for example, if you will work from home, you will work fast. Now this would be wrong because the sentence in here before the comma, the sentence which includes if, the conditional part, should be simple present tense. So the correct version would be if you work from home, you will work fast. And the last example is related to where we use the such words like usually, generally, often. It's about their position. Let's look at this example. People who work from home work usually fast. Now the correct version is people who work from home usually work fast. Now, as you may have realized, usually, generally, often, these things should come before the verb, not after the verb, as you can see in here. So in these videos, we looked at the 20 most commonly made mistakes, and I showed them how you can use them in a correct way. And in the next video, there is going to be some exercises, so you can practice, and you can practice how to avoid those mistakes. Hello everybody. In this video, you can see some sentences, and each sentence contains a mistake. Now, what I want you to do is that you can pause the video and try to answer the questions, and then you can check your answers by watching the rest of the video. Now you can do it all of them all together, or you can do like this. You try to correct the first one, pause the video, and then continue to play the video and check. So you can do it one by one, or you can do it all together. I'm just gonna wait 5 seconds. Great. Now let's look at the correct versions. Let me remind you, if you want, you can pause the video. So the first sentence is, my uncle uses online tools. He works efficiently. I need a conjunction and a punctuation. So my uncle uses online tools, comma, and he works efficiently. Let's look at the second example. The amount of people who work in offices are decreasing. The correct version is, the amount of people who work in offices is decreasing. Next one. My aunt's job can be done from home, and so her, with an apostrophe, time is spent mostly at home. My aunt's job can be done from home, and so her time, without apostrophe after her, is spent mostly at home. And the next one, she couldn't send the email because the electricity was off. It's a fragmentation mistake. So the correct version is, she couldn't send the email because the electricity was off. And the next one, John takes care of the accounting and his wife helps him. So I need, again, a punctuation. John takes care of the accounting, comma, and his wife helps him. The next one, dealing with the traffic can affect your moods negatively, and as you can see, the blue line gives away the answer in a way. So the correct answer is, dealing with the traffic can affect your mood negatively. Next one, getting ready in the morning is more demanding. Now there is a comparison and I need to say what I am comparing it to. So I say getting ready in the morning is more demanding than getting ready when you work from home. In other words, imagine that you have to go to work because you are working in an office. So getting ready in the morning is more demanding, whereas when you are working from home, getting ready at home, it's not very demanding. So I'm comparing these two things. Alright, the next one. I haven't been to the office for last April. The correct version is I haven't been to the office since last April. Next one is employees which work from home are happy, and I say employees who work from home are happy because employees are people. And speaking of people, the next one is people who work in the office can feel exhausting. And because I'm talking about feelings, the correct version should be people who work in the office can feel exhausted. Now it would be correct if I say working in the office can be exhausting, but because I am talking about feelings, I should say exhausted. And the next one, employees must wash their hands, and the correct version is employees must wash their hands. Remember that we don't use infinitive after a modal verb. And the next one, nobody feel happy in a traffic jam. Nobody is singular, so I should say nobody feels happy in a traffic jam. The next one, employees who work from home can choose what can they wear freely. The correct version is employees who work from home can choose what they can wear freely. So it's not a question sentence, that's why it should be like this. There are many programs for prepare your schedule. Prepare is a verb, so I need to say there are many programs to prepare your schedule. Now when I say program, I mean like those online tools, reminders, these things. Alright, the next one. People who work from home can handle things quick. And because there is a verb in here, I need to use an adverb. So the correct version is people who work from home can handle things quickly. And the next one, if you will go to the office, you will need to wear formal clothes. Remember that we cannot use will twice in these kind of sentences. So the correct version is if you go to the office, you will need to wear formal clothes. And the next one, and the last one, people who work from home lose often focus. And the correct version is people who work from home often lose focus. So, in this video, we looked at some wrong sentences and the correct versions, and it was an exercise for you. I hope it is helpful for you to understand the commonly made mistakes. Hello everybody. In this video we are going to be looking at 10 idioms and I'm going to show you how you can use them in your essays. Let's start with the first one. Our first idiom is break a leg, and it means that to get lucky. It has a meaning that you will have luck in your life, an opportunity. And let's use it in an example. When you live in abroad, you might break a leg and have a business opportunity. Or you can say have a better business opportunity. Let's imagine that you are writing an essay about the advantages and disadvantages of living abroad. And in your advantages part, you can say, when you live in abroad, you might get lucky, you might break a leg. It will be good for you in terms of business. Let's look at the second one. Have the time of your life. And it means that to have a good time or to have fun. Let's use it in an example. When you learn a new language, you can have the time of your life while interacting with foreign people. What I mean here is that let's imagine you are writing an opinion essay about how beneficial it is to learn a new language, and you can say you can have fun with foreign people while you are speaking with them, talking with them, so it might be fun to learn a new language. Our third example is far from cry, and it means that not a good chance or not possible or unlikely to happen. So let's imagine that you are writing an essay about, again, living abroad, advantages and disadvantages. And for example, in your disadvantages part, you can say, when you live in abroad, it might be too expensive for you, and saving money might be far from cry. What I mean is that it may not be possible for you to save money, so it may not happen. It's far from cry, because living in abroad might be too expensive. Let's look at the next example. It is piece of cake, and it means that something very easy to do. When you live abroad, it is a piece of cake to learn a new language. Again, let's imagine that you are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about living abroad, and you are trying to say, when you live abroad, it is easy for you to learn a new language. And the next one is cost an arm and a leg. And it means that something very expensive, something very costly, that financially might put you in a difficult position. So I say, when you live abroad, it might cost you an arm and a leg. So what I'm trying to say is that living in abroad might be expensive, and it might cost you an arm and a leg. Let's look at the next example. To be in touch. It means that to continue to have to have to have a relationship with someone, or to get in touch. As an example, I can say, thanks to social media, it is easier for people to be in touch with their old friends. Let's imagine that you are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about social media, and in the advantages part you can say, thanks to the social media you can be in touch with your friends. It means that you can continue to see them, talk to them, see them, so you can be in touch with them. And our next one is once in a blue moon. It means that something happening rarely or not often. So it doesn't happen all the time, it happens rarely. So I say, eating fast food once in a blue moon isn't that much harmful, but we shouldn't consume it often. What I'm trying to tell here is that, let's imagine you are writing an opinion essay about whether the fast food should be banned or not. So you can say in your introduction or in your conclusion, for example, like, it's okay to eat fast foods once or twice in a month. So it's okay to eat it rarely, but we shouldn't eat it often. It should be once in a blue moon. Our next example is miss the boat, and it means that to miss a chance or an opportunity. So there is an opportunity, but you don't take the opportunity, you miss the opportunity. For example, if you don't learn a foreign language, you might miss the boat when it comes to business. What I'm trying to tell here is that if you don't know a foreign language, let's imagine that you are writing an opinion essay about it, and you can say, if you don't know a foreign language, you may not be able to take opportunities, you might miss some opportunities if you don't know a new foreign language. Our next one is to make matters worse. It means that to make a situation worse, to make something worse. Let's imagine that you are writing an opinion essay about video games. So in your introduction or conclusion, or even one of your body paragraphs, you can say, video games might make children violent. To make the matters worse, video games can teach swear words. What I'm trying to tell that is video games might turn children into violent individuals, and to make them matters worse, furthermore, it teaches them some bad words, some swear words. And our last example is under the weather, and it means that to feel sick or to feel sad. And for that, let's say, again, we are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about living in abroad. So I say, let's imagine that we are writing the disadvantages part. You may not find enough support from your friends when you feel under the weather. What I'm trying to tell here is that one advantage of living abroad might be that when you are feeling sick or sad, if you are abroad, you may not have some support from your family, from your friends, from your hometown. So in this video, we looked at 10 idioms, and there's going to be exercises in the document parts. Hello everybody. In this video, we are going to be looking at 10 phrasal verbs. I'm going to show their meaning and show how you can use them in your essays. The first one is find out, and it means that to learn something or to learn the truth. And let's say you are writing an advantageous and disadvantageous essay about living abroad, so you can say, when you live abroad, you can find out about different cultures. Our second example is take up. It means to start a hobby. And let's imagine that you are writing an opinion essay about whether people have a hobby outside their jobs or whether they should have a hobby related to their jobs. So you can say, for example, when you take up, let's say, basketball, and let's imagine that we are supporting the idea that people should have a hobby outside of their jobs. So we are giving an example, and we can say when you take up basketball, you can have fun with your friends. And it develops your social skills as well. You can add in your essay. Our next phrasal verb is give up, and it means to stop a bad habit. And let's imagine we are writing an opinion essay about the dangers of smoking, and in the conclusion part we can say, as far as I'm concerned, everybody should give up smoking. So they should stop smoking, in other words. Our next one is bring up, our next phrasal verb, and it means to raise a child. And let's imagine that we are writing an opinion essay or an advantageous and disadvantageous essay about the life differences between city and the village. And let's imagine that we are supporting the idea that living in a village is a better option. So you can say, for example, it is easier to bring up a child in a village as the village has fresh air and organic food. Our next example is go through, and it means that to have an experience or to live an experience. Go through something. It means that something is happening to you and you are dealing with that situation, so it means to live an experience. And we can say, when you learn domestic skills, let's imagine that we are writing an opinion essay about it, you can go through some inconveniences in life easier. And domestic skills, I mean cooking, sewing, cleaning, these things, and inconveniences are minor disturbances, little accidents that happen, for example, in the house. So if you know how to cook or clean, you can go through these hardships, these inconveniences easier. Our next example is set aside, and it can mean to save money or put some money in the savings. And I say, for example, we are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about whether students should work after school. So we can say, if students work after school, they can set aside money and they can use that money for a holiday. Our next example is put up with someone, and it means to tolerate an annoying behavior. So if you put up with someone, you try to not make a scene, or you try to ignore their annoying behavior. And let's imagine that we are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about living abroad or working in a big company. So we can say, for example, when you work in a big company, you might have to put up with a lot of difficult customers. What I mean is that if you are working in a big company, there are a lot of people, and if there are a lot of people, there are different personalities. So you might have to put up with their bad behavior. Our next example is run out of something, and it means that to finish something or to use up something. And let's imagine that we are writing an opinion essay about whether people should wear expensive brand clothes. And let's imagine that we are disagreeing with that. So we are saying people don't have to wear expensive and brand clothes. So you can say, if you buy expensive clothes all the time, you will run out of money quickly. What I mean is that if you spend so much money on clothes, in the end, you won't have any money. You will run out of money. And our next one is to come across. And it means that to experience something or to see someone on the street by chance, to come across with a friend. For example, you are walking on the road and you come across with a friend, but in here I would like to use it in the meaning of to experience something. So I say, for example, when you live abroad, you might come across with a lot of culture related issues. What I mean is that let's imagine we are writing an advantages and disadvantages essay about living abroad, and in our disadvantages part, you can say that if you are living abroad, you might find yourself dealing with culture-related problems. You can come across with these problems, you can have these problems. And our last example is cut back on something. It means that to consume something less. And let's imagine we are writing an opinion essay about fast food. So I say, children ought to cut back on fast food. What I mean here is that I am saying that children should consume less fast food. If they are eating a lot of fast food, they should stop eating a lot of fast food and they should eat less. So in this video, we looked at 10 phrasal verbs, and in the document parts, you can find some exercises about these.